Kaldene Moon Mafrapo. Welcome again to part 1 of the Reef Natvi grammar course. And actually the first part is not about grammar, but instead I want to help you to get started with learning Natvi, so I want to give you a bunch of tips and tricks on how to do that. The first question we get from really almost everyone is, where should I start? And that is actually the wrong question to ask. The first question you should be asking yourself is, what is my goal? Because what your goal is really changes everything on how you approach this. For example, if you want to learn the entire language and you actually want to be able to speak Natvi with people, then your approach will be differently than if you just want to learn some nice phrases as a party trick for your family. Or if you just want to translate a few sentences for your fanfiction, but you're not really interested in being able to speak Natvi, then actually you don't really need to learn Natvi. You can just ask some people to help you translate. This course, from now on, also this video, will assume that your goal is to actually speak Natvi and be able to speak about basically anything with someone without having to go back to English or any other language. So, what should you do then? Where to start? First, you should make yourself familiar with the available resources. Save the ones you find appealing and helpful. Why make yourself familiar with them? You could just stay here and watch all the videos. I mean, of course, I would love that because then my YouTube channel gets pushed up. But there are so many nice resources made by so many great community members, and maybe this course is not the right thing for you. Maybe you don't really like it. Maybe there are other resources that explain things in a much better way for you, so you'd understand it better. Looking around a bit, widening the horizon, seeing what is offered can help you to find really great things out there. Of course, this leads to another question, namely, what resources do you actually need? Because there's so many different things. What is important? I'd say one of the most important things for the beginning is a good dictionary. There are actually a lot of dictionaries you can find online, and I think even on Amazon there is some nonsense small book which has like 200 words, which is not every word obviously. But there are a few that are trustworthy because they are maintained by people that actually are Natvi speakers, so they know what they're doing, and they also update the dictionaries every time there are new words. So let's just take a look at those dictionaries I'm talking about. Note that actually almost all dictionaries are in Forest Natvi, but you want to learn Reef Natvi, so what do? Two of the dictionaries I show you today have Reef Natvi modes, and that is why I show you Fueo here, because if you click on the top right corner on the LN, which means Litvia Natringe, so Forest Natvi, then it changes to green into Litvia Rione, so Reef Natvi. And now you're Reef Natvi mode, so you will be shown things in Reef Natvi. So let's actually search for hello. And then you see you now get kalde with the D sound there. And as you learned, that doesn't exist in Forest Natvi. You can click on it to get more information, you can listen to it. And there you have everything you need, everything important. You can also of course search for Natvi words, so let's search for kalde nemun. Then you get this. You can also search for changed words. So for example, if I search for meyoang, I get ioang because meyoang is a variant of ioang. Fueo also has a bunch of other different functions that I find really useful. For example, you can get random words here, which I love. I use this so often because I need random words for some exercises or whatever. Also with different options, for example, I can say I want a random word that ends with, I don't know, with a K. Now I get random words that end with a K. This is really useful. It also has a list function where I can search for, I want all words that start with a K and also words that end with, I don't know, with a T. Now we get all words that start with a K and end with a T. It can also translate numbers, so for example 42 I get mrvo moon, and I can also search for random Natvi numbers, so mrvo pay, let's do that one this time, and then we get our number. And there are a bunch of other random functions here. A name generator, you can look up if your name is valid. An overview of a lenition, which is something you will learn about later. So there are a bunch of useful functions here. Next, let's look at reconnu. You see already it says G matekre. It writes G because that's for SNAPV, but of course we should read it as G here in Reef NAPV. That is because I'm logged in. Yes, I'm an admin here, but actually logging into reconnu is in general super useful, because then you get the study feature. And there you can get, for example, a beginner vocabulary course. But back to the dictionary, which is the actual important part that we are talking about here. Let's search again, or actually before we search, let's go to the settings, because it also has different modes. It has forced NAPV mode and combined or both. Combined both shows you the forced NAPV spelling, but shows you the U versus Ö, so you know when to use those. Let's select that one for now. Let's search for kalde again. We know that that means hello. And as I said, it shows you the forced NAPV spelling, but if we search, for example, for a random word, then we see it also shows us the U versus the Ö. Let's also search for an English word. Let's search for hello. Again, you get all the important information about it. Some things I want to point out about this dictionary. Let's first search for a verb. So for example for taron, which means to hunt. And you see I can click there and now I can put in infixes, which probably now doesn't tell you much, but later when you learn about infixes, this will be super useful, I promise. So you can then look how the verb looks like after putting in infixes. It also has etymology, so you see all derived words here, which is all words that have taron in it. So if you click on se taron, then we also see etymology. Oh, it comes from se plus taron. It also has the annotated dictionary included. Let's look at it. Annotated dictionary is a dictionary that has each word with some official sentences. So there you see how the word actually is being used, which is super important. And it is just included in reconnu, so that is really great. It also has an all words list, so there it takes a bit. Now you can see all the different words in one big list. You can also search, for example, for all verbs. Now you have all verbs that exist. And I think that was about it, what I wanted to show you about reconnu. Let's go to the next one. This is Dic NAPV, which is the oldest of the dictionaries as far as I know. Unfortunately, this one does not support Reef NAPV at all. So you see, I can search for hello, then I get again kalde. This is the forced NAPV pronunciation, we would pronounce as kalde. But if I now search for the Reef NAPV version, kalde, you see no results. If we look for a word with U versus Ö, we see also it doesn't show it. You can get more information when you click on the things, but it is unfortunately not the best dictionary if you're learning Reef NAPV. I still want to show it to you because it has one thing that I really love, namely you can look at words by groups, topic groups, and then for example you can look at all the words that have to do with music. And then you get a list of words that has to do with music. Of course you have to be careful because it shows you them in forced NAPV. I still think this is a super useful feature. Next, let's look at the annotated dictionary. This one is a PDF, and I already showed you that you can see it in reconnu too. Also, again, this one is completely in forced NAPV. However, it does indicate how something is pronounced in Reef NAPV. So you see here, in Reef NAPV, it is avon, with not the U, but the Ö sound. This dictionary, in my opinion, is the most useful resource we have for learning NAPV, simply because learning a word is not enough. You have to learn the word together with how it is used. So parts of speech is very important here. Is it a noun, a verb, an adjective? And in which situations do we actually use it in the sentence? So looking up a word in the annotated dictionary is actually something you should always do when you learn a new word. Lastly, a bit of self-advertisement. Again, unfortunately, it is still not in Reef NAPV. I plan to translate it into Reef NAPV, hopefully after I'm done with this video course. But One problem that the annotated dictionary has is that not every single word has example sentences, because sometimes there are just no example sentences, and some example sentences are very, very long. So I create the verb dictionary, which is a dictionary only with verbs. And there you can find some very simple sentences how to use the verbs. So which case endings do they use, which other sentence structures do they use, which adpositions do they use, and some other random information about those verbs. This, I think, can be very useful for beginners if you are unsure how to use a verb. So as soon as you learn about case endings, you will probably regularly get confused which one does a verb use. And if you're unsure, you can look it up in this dictionary. All the dictionaries I just showed you, of course, are linked in the video description. And also in the workbook, in the overview of this chapter, you can also find the links again. Next, you will need a grammar resource. Of course, you can just use this course because I also have a bunch of grammar videos in this course. Every chapter will have one grammar video. But it definitely makes sense to also look at some other grammar resources to see if there are some that you like. Next, you need someone to practice with. This is really, really, really important because you cannot learn the language just by reading about it. If you want to learn to speak Na'vi, you will have to speak Na'vi. And speaking against the wall only does so much. At some point you will want to actually speak to people. How do you find someone to practice with? You join a Na'vi language community on Discord. There are 3 big Na'vi communities there, and I will show you all of them. We have Learn Na'vi, Gelutral, and the German learning group, so that one is only interesting if you're German. Before I show you all these 3 Discord communities, one note: most things that they offer are again about Forest Na'vi, so the classes they offer are usually about Forest Na'vi. And also if you ask a question there about the language, usually people will answer you in Forest Na'vi. If you want to be sure that people answer you things about Reef Na'vi, make sure to always include, hey, I'm learning Reef Na'vi. Please give me the answer in Reef Na'vi. But let's take a look at those communities. Here we are in the Gelutral Discord server. You can find here a server guide where you can find more tips for getting started with learning Na'vi. And one very important thing is the how to use Gelutral thing here, because it gives you a bunch of tips on how to join classes in the server, where to ask questions, where to practice with others. So it shows you just a bunch of useful places you can go in the server. Next, of course, you might want to join lessons, and for that you can either go here to the events tab. There you see all the lessons of the week. So right now, because it's already Friday, most has already happened, I think. Every Monday evening, European evening, the lesson schedule will be uploaded, and then you can find all the lessons that happen during the week here. Alternatively, you can also go to the questions and practice channel, and there you will find in the pinned messages always the week's schedule. As I said, this will be posted usually Monday evenings, sometimes Thursday mornings when I'm too tired on Monday evenings. But yeah, there you find also the schedule. The next important channel here for you is the learning resources. Of course, directly after this video you should go to pronunciation. There you see different resources you can use for learning pronunciation. But you can also find tons of grammar resources. So you see there's really a lot of choice for you here. For you important, of course, are the ones that are marked with a B for beginner friendly. Also words and phrases, there you find again all the dictionaries and some word lists and vocab decks. Stuff for practicing. So for example, worksheets, other resources where you find tips for typing, learning plans, so very random other things. So there's really a lot to find here. And one last place that I want to show you in the Gelutral Discord is the Na'vi study clubs. In the Na'vi study clubs you can join study clubs, which are just small clubs that practice by doing different things, or also Na'vi projects. Everyone can join everything. There is no gatekeeping here that you need to be a certain level. You can just already learn by read what other people do. So looking through these clubs here and see what might be interesting for you can be really useful. Then of course, as I said, there's also the Learn Na'vi Discord, which also has lessons. So if you go there first on the events tab, you see what lessons happen. So there you can also go in interested to say that you want to join the lesson and then just join. Whenever it starts, you can just join the stage channel. So there are also a bunch of different classes about different topics. Next, of course, the resource section also has a bunch of different things. Some of them are the same as in the Keltra Discord, but there are also some other ones. So it makes actually sense to be in both servers, to see both different resource channels, to make use of everything. And also because if you're in both servers, you can join classes from both. There are also grammar resources, vocab resources, lessons, and practice resources. So there's a bunch of interesting things here. There's also, of course, in the NatVi channel where you can practice your NatVi writing, and a classroom channel where you can ask questions about the NatVi language. There's also the German learning group. I will not say much about it. It is also linked in the video description, of course. If you are German and you want to learn in an actual learning group, so you have a teacher and a set group and you meet with that group every single week, then you can join the Deutsche Lerngruppe. I will not say much about it because this video is in English, but if you are German, definitely come by, come in, and yeah, maybe you can one day join my group there because I'm also teaching there. By the way, you can find me in all 3 servers, so if you have questions about this course, you can always reach me on Discord, no matter if in Kelutral, in Learn NatVi, or in the NatVi Lerngruppe. You can also always reach me via DM, of course, and I'm actually teaching both in the German Lerngruppe, but also in Kelutral. I'm teaching every Sunday and sometimes some random other lessons. So now you have a dictionary, you have a grammar resource, you have communities where you can find more resources and people to practice with. Now there's only one very, very important thing left that you need, actually 2, initiative and motivation. Because we can only give you the tools, we can show you the tools, we cannot make you use them. You are the one who has to make use of these tools, you are the one who has to jump into voice chat and practice, you are the one who has to actually sit down and study. We cannot do that for you. So it really depends a lot on how much initiative and motivation you have. We talked about resources for a long time now, so let's look at the next things you should do. First off, you should start learning pronunciation. Learn about pronunciation, listen to others doing it in voice chat or in video and audio form, and practice it yourself. This video course does not include pronunciation because I'm not really good at teaching it, but I will link to videos about it in the video description. Unfortunately, so far I think the videos we have are all about Forest NatVi. So what I would really advise you for Reef NatVi, ask in the Discord servers. Ask if someone has time to go over Reef NatVi pronunciation with you, or watch the Forest NatVi videos and then learn about how it changes in Reef NatVi. And if at some point a video comes out that specifically talks about pronunciation in Reef NatVi, then you will also of course find that linked in the video description. Next, you should look at common phrases. So learn some common phrases. With that I mean stuff like hello, bye, thanks, how are you, and stuff like that. And use them. So really use them in chats with others. Within the NatVi community, you can just always use those instead of the English equivalent. This is a good way to get you started with actually using the NatVi language a bit, instead of just studying dry grammar and vocab. And then, finally, we get to grammar. Use the resources you found to learn different grammar concepts step by step, and always practice a lot before doing the next. And this last thing I said, practice a lot, is really important, because a big part of your NatVi learning will be just practicing. Practice, 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 practice again, and when you think you are done with practice, then practice some more just to be sure. Now you might think that one thing is missing in this overview, namely vocab. What about vocab? I did not put it in the overview on purpose, because if you practice a lot, specifically if you practice also grammar by writing down sentences, then you will learn often used words automatically. Because when you need them in a sentence, you look them up in the dictionary, and then you use it. Then the next time you need it, you have forgotten it again, so you look it up again. And after looking it up for a few times and actually actively using it, you will know the word. You don't need to have it in a vocab deck, you just know it. Of course, flashcards can help, but they're not sufficient on their own because they don't teach you how to use the word in context. They don't teach you how to use it in a sentence. But if you like vocab decks, you can of course use them. Now the big question, do I need to speak? Do I need to go into voice chat? Because many people come and they want to learn to speak Na'vi, but then if you tell them, hey, come into voice chat, we can practice with you, then they say, no, I'm shy. I don't want to speak. I can't speak in voice chat. And the sad truth is that yes, you need to speak because skills need practice in order to develop. You cannot learn to speak Na'vi by only writing it. You can also not learn to write Na'vi just by reading it. Every language skill needs to be practiced if you want to become good at it. With every language skill, I mean reading, listening, writing, and speaking, which are 4 different skills, and if you want to become good at all 4 of them, then you need to practice all 4 of them. One thing that I already touched on is that learning indeed is work. It takes a lot of time. I think in the movies, Jake learns 3 months at the beginning of the first movie, and then he is not very good. To be fair, Jake is a very slow learner as far as I know, so you can be conversational in less than 3 months. But especially if you want to be able to confidently speak Na'vi about almost any topic, it might take you years. Learning a language takes a long time. It's like learning German, that also takes you a long time. You need to be consistent, so studying once a month for 10 or 20 hours doesn't really do the trick. You will need to study every day a bit. You need to use the language. That's why I stressed practice, practice, practice so much. And one tip for that is find fun things to do with the language. In my case, I like gaming and I like speaking Na'vi. So what I do is I do Na'vi gaming streams or let's plays in Na'vi. You could also translate songs that you like, or translate short stories, or write own songs and short stories, or just try to speak to your friends in Na'vi every day. So find something to do with the language that you like, because that way it becomes suddenly very easy to use the language. One important thing is that mistakes actually are your friends. I know that in school then mistakes were always very bad, because if you have a mistake then you get a worse grade. But we are not in school, this is not a school, you don't get any grades, and mistakes are how you learn. Because if you try out something new and make tons of mistakes on the way, then people can correct your mistakes, and that way you can improve and you can learn something new. So really don't be afraid of mistakes. The people that make the most mistakes are the people that learn the fastest, I think. Those and the people that go into voice chat. I think people that go into voice chat and actively try to speak the language, even if they suck at the beginning, which everyone does, I think those are the people that learn Na'vi the fastest, or any language really. And lastly, one tip is to help others to help yourself. If you have learned something, even if it's just one small thing, then you can teach it to others. Of course, you should be careful that you don't spread misinformation, but explaining something to someone else is a good way to actually check if you fully understood it and to repeat it yourself and remember it even better in the future. So helping others out when they have questions actually is a super good way to repeat things and to learn it better. Then some common mistakes. A few of them I already talked about a lot, but I still want to put them here because they are common mistakes. First of all, literal translations. You cannot translate literally from one language to another. Imagine translating from English to Chinese. There you also cannot just replace English words with Chinese words. You have to find the right Chinese words for the specific context, and you have to use Chinese grammar, which is very different from English grammar. The same is with Na'vi translation. You cannot just replace English words with Na'vi words. You have to apply grammar, you have to see how the Na'vi actually formulates specific things. So translating literally really does not work. Word types is another big thing. I earlier today already told you that you have to learn word types when you learn vocab. So you have to learn if a word is a noun, a verb, an adjective, or something else. In English, often you can use one word for different word types. One example would be love. The love is a noun, but to love, I love you, is a verb. In Na'vi, those are then different words. You cannot use one word for different word types. Since we're already talking about studying vocab, also one extra tip, learn the stressors. So stress, for example, is in vocabulary. I say vocabulary. I don't say vocabulary. I don't say vocabulary. That sounds weird, right? In English, it is mostly predictable where a stress is in a word. In Na'vi, it isn't. So for every single word that has more than one syllable, you have to learn by heart where the stress is. So extra tip here, if you learn a new word, learn the word type and learn the stress. Then some things I already have talked about. Not enough practice is a very common mistake. So don't jump from grammar topic to grammar topic. You really need to practice a lot. Not enough interaction. A language lives from communication. So language is a tool for communication. So try to use it for communication. That's how you will learn the fastest. Then one other big thing, many people see that there are lessons in the Discord servers and then they're like, great, I'll wait for the lesson. I wait till there is a lesson about the topic I want to learn about. And this is the biggest mistake you can make. Or I said it about many things, but it's one of the biggest mistakes you can make. The reason is there are thousands of learners in the Discord servers. Every single learner started at a different time. They learn at different speeds. So they're currently on a different level with their Na'vi learning. There are maybe 5 to 7 lessons per week. So this is not enough to have a lesson that suits every single person perfectly. Lessons are a nice addition. It is super fun to study together with others, to have exercise together, to practice speaking together. It is super fun, and if you have the time to join, join. Really, it can be super helpful and very motivating to learn together with others in a voice chat. But lessons are only additions. The main part of your learning you will have to do on your own, unfortunately. But you can of course always ask questions. Lastly, I want to talk about which grammar you should learn as a beginner. What I show here is not the one perfect way to do this. There are many different paths you could take, but it is one possibility. The first two I actually think you should do that way, namely you should first learn about simple sentences. I mean sentences like I eat. So you just have a person and the person is doing something. You should focus a bit on the differences between how English and how Na'vi do these simple sentences, because many of the differences between English and Na'vi here later cause some grammar differences. So understanding the different approaches English and Na'vi have here already can help a lot for understanding the structure of the Na'vi language. Another type of sentence you could learn about already is sentences with to be. So Netiri is a hunter, for example. Next, you should learn about case endings. So these are small things that go at the end of nouns to show what role they have in a sentence. And for the beginning, you should definitely learn about the subject and direct object. Then you will also learn about VTR versus VIN, so what that means. Then you could also already learn about the indirect object and maybe about the genitive. And then after that, I think it gets a bit more freer with what you want to do. It makes sense to next learn about adjectives, so saying the dog is fast versus I see the fast dog. Also make sure to learn how to use multiple adjectives on the same word. And then it really gets free. One path you could take is then learning about clause attribution. So subclauses like the dog that runs fast. And then you will automatically probably stumble into the rabbit hole of F words and other conjunctions. At some point you could also learn about infixes, which are things that go into verbs. You could also learn about adverbs and adpositions. You could learn about different pre and suffixes. There are so many different things you could learn about. And I think if you are done with the simple sentences and have learned the base concept of case endings and maybe adjectives, then afterwards you are really free with what you want to do. Of course, if you followed this grammar course here, then I kind of already decide in which order you learn things. If you find another grammar resource and follow that, then they might use a similar order to me, they might use another one. So just try to find something that works for you. Now, what next? We are almost done with the video. What should you do next? I already kind of answered that in the where to start section, but you should study pronunciation. As I said, there will be links to pronunciation videos in the video description here. And also, as I said in the workbook chapter that goes along with this video, you can also find some important links again, including pronunciation videos. Du se baum nga rusra, ne ye baum. Do you have questions? Just ask. As always, you can ask in the comments. You can also reach me on Discord or via email. And then, after you learned about pronunciation, the next step will be listening 1.1, some useful words, where I will teach you some words like hello, goodbye, thank you, yes, no, and stuff like that. If you're just here for the grammar videos, then you can of course skip all the listening stuff and immediately go to simple sentences, which is the first video of the second chapter. That was it for today. Hi, Yellowfi!